They did. Okay, Boker Tov, Shavua Tov, everyone. Good morning. The month of Tammuz, this week, the learning is sponsored anonymously, celebrating the birthday and another year of growth for David Yeshua ben Tzvi Alter. That was pretty telling. I know who that is. But anyway, Michael Levy, in memory of Michael's mother, Lira Bat Zelig, Zichron Livracha, Yortzeit on Tammuz. Tali and Gershon Weiss for the Refuah Shlema of Yosef ben Esther Halevi, Bezrat Hashem. And Esti and Shimon Golovensitz in memory of David's Yortzeit, which is on Yud Aleph Tammuz this coming Friday. And today's daily sponsorship by Judy Brock in honor of what would have been her 41st wedding anniversary, and to all her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren all over the world.
So there's one more sponsorship.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to sponsor learning in honor of Sagiv Amiel coming into the world.
Your great-grandson. Baruch Hashem. What a bracha. What an amazing bracha. Okay, everybody, if you could please open up to Daf, page Ayin Bet. And today is going to be the last time we're going to be learning for this year, for this month. And we're going to pick this up again towards the end of the summer. I'm not sure exactly what date, but we'll pick it up later in this towards the end of the summer, sometime in the middle of Elul. But I want to go out with a bang. Got to go out strong. So in order to do that, what I would love for us to do is to really hear from him how this is the end of this perek, and here Rav Sasson is going to lesakem for us. He's going to summarize for us a lot of what we've been talking about. Specifically last week that we were learning was something so special. Words from Rav Kook himself about the greatness of the generation. We looked into a piece that was from the Pinkasim, speaking about the earlier generations. We had such giants, and most of Am Yisrael were huge schleppers, I would say, nebuchs, right? But now the reason why you don't have these great lights like you once had them is because we still have some schleppers. We still have a little bit of schleppers, but we have such big neshamas. We have such big lights, tremendous lights popping out everywhere. And we saw a few different things. So you could leave that shir being very optimistic, saying, wow, we're surrounded by tzaddikim, by gdolim, by rebbes. But then you get a little bit confused because that's not exactly what you're coming across with every single day. You're seeing we see a lot of other things, a lot of other people, scenarios, realities, which more or less allude to the exact opposite of feeling like you're in the presence of such kedusha and great light. So Tameret, Rav Kook's words would have made much more sense if it would have looked like Lublin, if like Eretz Yisrael would have looked like Lublin at the time of the Chayza of Lublin, where you had thousands of Rebbes walking the streets. You know that it used to be that only like a big Rebbe and a tzaddik would wear a white shtreimel and a white kapata. In Lublin, you had thousands of people dressed like that at that time, because that's what it was like. That was the mitziyut, that was the reality. So you think, based on Rav Kook's words, wait a second, so I should be walking around here, and everyone should be looking like a shtickle Rav Kook or something like that, you know? So Rav Sasson is going to help us understand, how to make sense that this is the beginning of Geulah. Let's try to make sense that this is the beginning of what we're speaking about the great light that we're speaking about. So I'm going to read a lot today. It's his words. It's not so difficult Hebrew. Daf Ayin Bet. Hamatzav bahove el mul chalamot ha'atid. The situation at hand, bahove, right now, in front of the futures, el mul, the futures, the future dreams. Kan tzarich leosif davar chashuv me'od. Kol hadiburim halalu alulim lihitakel bekushiyot rabot ve'atzumot lo hamatzav bahove. All the big talk we've been talking about, how great the light is and all these things, and what a generation, what big neshamas and everything. You may start having a lot of questions when you start thinking like this. פעמים רבות יבוא השואל וישאל, המבט המרומם הזה הוא אומנם מלא אור ואופטימיות. It's great that you're so optimistic. אלא נראה שהוא תלוש מהמציאות. But you seem to be completely disconnected from reality. הלא ישנם כל כך הרבה בעיות ואתגרים. There's so many problems and challenges. תרבויות זרות חודרות לתוך מחנה ישראל. You have a lot of foreign cultures, and over here he's not just speaking about like music. He's talking about whole mindsets of foreign cultures that are quite often very much rooted in Avodah Zarah that have infiltrated into Machane Yisrael. Like he says here, Ruchot shel kfira ufrikat ol menashvot bekirbeinu. There's wind of heresy. Prikat ol means stripping myself away from any type of Kabbalat ol malchut shamayim, which has made its way through the olam, through the crowd. Yeshnam pirudim ben tziburim shonim. You see sometimes such a disconnect between different groups in Am Yisrael. Uzramim azim shel tchanim mekalkelim shotfim levavot rabim. And a dangerous flow of a lot of different content is coming and brainwashing many pure hearts. נראה שכל הדיבור על המדרגות הללו הוא תלוש מהמציאות. Rav Sasson says, it seems that all this optimistic talk about all the greatness of this generation, the beauty of the generation, the light of the generation, it seems like it's a beautiful dream to have, but that's not what's going on over here. You could come with that question, as if we haven't had that question in our hearts. We just don't say it all the time, but it's definitely hovering, somewhere there. אכן השאלות קשות ומטלטות. Rav Sasson says, yeah, these are hard questions. אומנם גם תשובות וברורות ובהירות קיימות לכל השאלות הללו. But there are very clear answers to all these questions. והתשובות הללו מקנות מבט כל כך עמוק, עד שהוא מלמד אותנו כיצד ניתן לראות את האור גם מתוך המשברים, באופן שהם בעצמם יחזקו את המבט הגדול והמאיר הזה. This is beautiful. He says the answers to these questions really give us a much deeper way of living, of thinking, of experiencing, of sharing, of identifying. So much so that the answers to these questions that we just started with, they teach us how to see the light through such crises, in a way that the questions themselves will actually give us more strength and a better view of things. Right? He's saying something very deep here. He's saying like amazing thing. He's saying these are questions you better be having. You should not be just under the impression that everything you see is all peachy and it's all beautiful. And no, there's definitely a seemingly contradiction between what the learning of Pnimius HaTorah is telling us about this generation and Lemaisa, what we see in front of us. But Rav Sasson says, welcome to the lens of Rav Kook and the Tzaddikim that were able to see that when it was right in front of them. Welcome to the lens of a huge person that could see the absolute opposite of Kedusha in front of them with the world's lens, and then putting on their corrective lens and living a life where you're not threatened by all these things that seem so threatening to you, and all these foreign cultures that seem so darkening, and that seem so the opposite of what you are, what you believe in. And it's an amazing thing. Wouldn't you do anything to just see everyone and not judge? Wouldn't that be an amazing, beautiful way to live a life? Not feel judged. Wouldn't that be just incredible? Yeah, but not feel judged that's the Meraglim's struggle, where they say, I feel judged, I feel like they look at me like I'm a grasshopper. First, I have to make sure that I don't put out that energy. That's my avoda. That's my avoda. That's much more important. And that's a very deep thing. But that would be like, you could see here, he's giving us the ruach of Geulah. This is the spirit of redemption. To be able to really look at every single thing that seems like a polar opposite, and not just say, oh, there's a pintel yid there, I'm sure I have to mechaber that person to that nekuda pnimit balev, but to really right now look at Am Yisrael with these kind of eyes. That's amazing, yeah.
It's so challenging with the awareness that there's
experiences that we're not even consciously aware of. Like, we're constantly doing these birurim of what's emet, what's kedusha, and what's not.
Right.
And so to be in that, like, cautiousness and also non-judgment, how do you...
Right. That's why this shir is not for everybody. This sefer is not for everybody. You're right. This is very, very, very hard.
I think she wanted an answer.
No, she knows better than that. Not pitom. She knows better than that. Not pitom. You're gonna have a lot more questions this year. I'm gonna keep on reading. Omnam, second line on the top of Ayin Gimel. Omnam, bishvil ken. Here's your answer. In order to live like this, in order to see people like this, in order to live like this, צריך להעמיק פנימה, you gotta go really deep. וללמוד בצורה יסודית את מהות הגאולה. We have to learn the context in a very fundamental way. We have to learn the content of what redemption even is. של שלביה, and the process, ודרכי הופעתה, and the manner in which it appears. It's like we have this thing, Mashiach now, it should just happen. But he's saying over here is that there's a whole process to how Geula appears, its order, the mechanisms, all the different shlavim of it, the process. So he's saying over here, in order to do all this work we're talking about, you got to go much deeper and understand where you are, where we are on the process of the appearance of redemption. I think the Satmar Rebbe was very nervous that we were certain that in 1948 we already reached the peak of the redemption and it was here. It was just a gar'in, it was just a seed that began, maybe then. So we're going to learn in a much deeper way the context of what it means, what's the mahut of the Geulah? What's the essence of redemption and how does it appear? What does it look like? Inyan ze mevuar b'Torah, and yes, this is brought out in the Torah. V'yesh lo sfarim u'mekorot chashuvim me'od. We have a lot of different sources for all this. בעזרת השם, במהלך הספר ניגע בחלק מהעניינים האלו. And throughout the rest of this book, which I hope to Bezrat Hashem continue, Bezrat Hashem also next year, we're going to see how it appears. We're going to learn inside how all these matters appear. Mikol makom, nonetheless, כאן נבקש לציין נקודה אחת יסודית מאוד. We have to mention something very, very important. אנו עדים לתהליכים עצומים שקרו לעם ישראל בדורות האחרונים. Saying like this, for 2,000 years, if you'd ask a Jew in Galut, tell me something, anything big happened to Am Yisrael lately? For 2,000 years, the answer would be, well, they killed a few of us here, killed a few of us there. There was never, ever such a time, ever, dare I say even before Churban Bayit Sheni, that so much movement and so many monumental happenings were taking place in Am Yisrael, like the door that we're witnessing, that we're living in now. There was never such a time. There was never such a busy time of so many things taking place. Like he says, Ta'ali Chazarat Am Yisrael le'Eretz Yisrael. This whole process of Am Yisrael becoming back to Eretz Yisrael, hu shlav mishlavei ha'geula. It's a shlav. It's a stage. והוא מלמד אותנו שהתהליך החל את צעדיו. All it's telling us is, okay, the march began. ויש לדעת סוד גדול מאוד, and one must know a very, very big secret. תהליך הגאולה, and this is really important, תהליך הגאולה הוא מהלך אלוקי. The process of redemption is a godly process. ולא רק יוזמה ורצון שלנו, בני האדם. And it's not just our will and our wanting and our doing, us human beings. זהו עניין יסודי מאוד, שיש לו השלכות רבות. It has a lot of ramifications, this last sentence. ולכן ניגע בו בקצרה. So, I could take a lot of questions right now, or I could have him explain what he just said. But the last statement he just said is not muvan me'elav, meaning it shouldn't be taken for granted. He said, we have to remember something. When we're talking about redemption and the Mahalach of Geulah, we have to realize redemption is a godly program. Us human beings have the privilege to participate in the godly program. But I will ask one question at the risk of really not finishing anything I wanted to today. What do you think is the difference between approaching the learning of Geulah as knowing in my heart and living with the notion that it's a godly mahalach, as opposed to not thinking about that all the time? What's the nafka mina? What's the difference? Yeah.
So we get caught up in the politics. We get caught up in the infighting between the groups. And at that point, we've just thrown Hashem out of the picture altogether.
It's very easy to throw Hashem out of the picture of Geulah, basically. Yes,
I
Ahava?
think he gives us the strength to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard going through that stuff and you get caught into it. So it gives us the strength to
Bechlet. Anyone else? Those are two very powerful things. What you're both saying.
And also knowing that, I mean, kind of adding to what you're saying, knowing that we're not doing, the cross is not ours only.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that we're going along, like Hashem sees the final picture, obviously, because my little Leah, my life is, but like knowing that we're going on the derech with him, so he's like, yeah, of course I'm going to be standing in that existence and that place, but knowing that, like what you said, hope, having like we're not like, okay, politics is going on in Israel and the world, but even that, Hashem is like just saying, yeah, I'm here, I'm holding on to, don't let go, and continue on that process.
Now we're gonna hear from him. Now we say something in Shmona Esrei, every Shmona Esrei during the week. Kikel goel chazak ata. You're a strong redeemer. Did anyone ever have a different kavanah? What did you think of when you said these words last time, or do you even remember? It's okay, I don't, and I just said it about 15 minutes ago. My kavanah for these words. You're a goel chazak. You're a strong redeemer. Interesting words. Words we say every day. And then we stop and thinking about it, like, this would be good to tap into, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hakel HaGadol, HaGibor VaNorah, Borei HaOlam uManhigo, Bara et kol habriya kula, Bishvil matara v'tachlit brurim. God created the world for a very clear purpose. Hashem created this world for a purpose. Again, these things, there's no chiddush here, right? It's not that there's no chiddush, but when you stop and remind yourself of that, it puts you in a context of a much bigger picture that's bigger than just your own tzaras and your own inyanim. Tachlizo, this purpose, hi haratzon ha'eloki ha'omed b'yesod b'riat ha'olam u'me'az b'riat ha'olam v'ad hayom HaKadosh Baruch Hu movil u'manhig et ha'olam el tachlito v'yi'udo. This purpose is the godly will which stands behind the reason why he even created this world. That Hashem wanted something when he created this world. And from the creation of the world till today, God is leading us and the whole world towards this purpose and this yi'ud. You know what yi'ud means?
Destination.
The destiny, yeah. Ya'ad means destination. Yi'ud is like the purpose of the destiny. Hatachlit hazo hi hamatzav hashalem v'hanifla. This purpose is this pristine, perfect, wondrous place. Elav tagia havaya kula ba'acharit hayamim. The place God has been leading the whole world towards from the moment that he wanted to create the world and created the world is leading us to a place that all of humanity, all of the world of existence will all take part of at the end of days. Right? Mashiach is not a Jewish experience, right? Remember that. I know, it's very threatening for FFBs to hear that. Does anyone know that? Yeah, can anyone relate to that statement? Mashiach is not a Jewish experience necessarily. It's kol ha'olam kulo. It's the whole world. It's everything.
Only those who believe in God.
The Baba Rebbe would say right now,
No?
don't put limits on anybody or who it's for. That sounds a little bit, mechila, that sounds a little bit You know which religion? Only those that,
No, but knowing that there's obviously the world, that's why I don't like the word blame, but the world of people, like the existence is the purpose, but those who haven't gotten there yet, they might know that that's the final.
I'm worried about me. Like, I can't afford to worry about that chevra too, yeah. But now he says like this, and that's, so where do we fit into the picture? But it's a very beautiful statement what he just said. He said, wait a second, stop for a second. Why is there a world here right now? There's one answer. Ki kach Hashem ratzah. God wanted there to be a world. Believing in God means that what you see, maybe not exactly so much of it has become kilu tainted with man's ideas about the world. But the fact that the world exists and believing that Hashem created the world also means that I believe He's been leading and driving the whole world towards the initial ratzon that He had in the beginning to bring all of humanity to this state, to this amazing, incredible place, which we'll be talking about. But Geulat Am Yisrael, the redemption of Am Yisrael, Geulat Am Yisrael, היא למעשה ההגעה אל אותה תכלית עליונה, לשמה ברא הקדוש ברוך הוא את העולם כולו. The redemption of Am Yisrael is למעשה arriving at that same higher purpose for which God created the whole world. שכן עם ישראל הוא הבריח התיכון של כל ההוויה כולה. You know, in the Mishkan, this concept, this phrase we just used, bariach hatichon. The Alter Rebbe used this also in the Tanya. Bariach hatichon, in the Mishkan, there were the krashim, the planks, right? And you constructed the Mishkan with all different planks, but there was one plank that was mavriach min hakatzeh lakatzeh. That means, how would you say that? Central axis, yeah? Is it? Everything pivots around that central beam, right? And without that, you could have the greatest construction of a Mishkan, it's not going to stand up. It won't be, right? So he says over here, Am Yisrael, in the context of the whole world, is the Bariach HaTichon, is the central axis, is that inner beam around which, like you said, everything else pivots, everything else is leaning on that to a certain extent. Or everything else finds its own place only if that inner beam is in the right place. People are wondering, why is the world in such turmoil? It's always going to be like this until we get it together here, until we figure it out. It's always going to be like this. It'll never change. Never. It's dependent on Am Yisrael figuring out how to be real Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, in our place where we belong. Until that happens, it's going to keep on being the turmoil. It's going to keep on being the way it is.
Talking to someone that wasn't Jewish on Shabbat, and she was saying, but why do Jews think they're like they're better than everyone? I said, nah, I didn't know what to answer that. I said, I don't think they're better. They were given a certain, kind of response that they have to carry, that they have to carry in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It does not make them that they're superior and they're better. I didn't want to. I didn't say yes or no.
Good. Good. ושלמותו מסבבת את השלמות והטובה לכל יצורי תבל. Our shlemus makes your life better. Your life, our non-Jewish brothers and sisters. Our shlemut makes everyone's life better. לאור זאת מתברר שהרצון שעם ישראל ייגאל ויבוא אל שלמותו אינו רק רצון שלנו. So we see that the will, the desire that Am Yisrael should be redeemed is not just our own will, our own wanting. מחמת התשוקה שלנו אל הטבת החיים ואל נועמם. Because we want to feel life in the best way possible? No, it's not just that we want this because we know that we won't have any tzaras anymore. You have to remember something. Who wants this? Look at the top of Ayin Daled. Ela zeu retzon Eloki adir. This is one of the greatest, mighty wills of Hashem for us to be in the place that we long for and daven for. שהניע הן את בריאת העולם והן את הנהגת העולם לאורך כל שנות ההיסטוריה. It's basically saying this place we long to be in and that we want so badly to be in, is fulfilling the purpose of all of creation from the beginning of time. It's not just this thing that basically popped up after the Shoah. And like, whoa, well, we can't live like that anymore. So let's go for this other thing called Geula. No, that's not what it is. This has been something, remember, we found this already, the Midrash tells us, and I'm sure he'll bring it in our learning. Where's Mashiach show up in the Torah the first time? The Ruach Elokim merachefet al pnei hamayim. The Spirit of God is hovering over the water. Midrash tells us, Eze Ruach zo? Zehu Ruach shel Melech HaMashiach. The Spirit of the King Mashiach was already out there over the water. We're going to talk about that in a while. We're going to learn that inside next year. The Spirit of Mashiach is found in the creation of the world, hovering over the waters before the waters were divided. Zoi nekudat hayesod lechol inyanei hageula. You want to talk about Geula, this concept has to be clear to us. This was the purpose from the beginning of time. This is why the whole world was created. This world wasn't created to try to make it really nice. The world was created in order to bring all of existence to this not just elevated state of life, because elevated means like a level higher, to a perfect state of existence. Mamash. That's like the greatest example of it, that statement. Zoi nekudat hayesod lechol inyanei hageula. הידיעה שהגאולה היא פעולה אלוקית עליונה ונשגבה. It's so easy to forget that Hashem is part of the process of Geula. It's amazing. We get so caught up in how we think what the Geula should look like and what seems to be better. This is much bigger than our ideas.
In the davening of the Menina Re'im,
Yeah.
what is it, Avinu Malkeinu after Moses?
Avinu Malkeinu.
Right? So it specifically says there, Sinat Chinam. Like it's not in our hands.
Avinu Malkeinu, we ask him, right, Akale kol dever cherev ra, shvi umashchit, avon magefa, chol minei tekala, chol minei ktata, any fight. Well, we're asking Hashem, you should remove it, but I'm sure that part of it is saying, let me be part of helping you remove it from the world. I mean, we're not really.
Yeah, but it's clearly saying
It's a big, yeah. 100%, yes. When was the last time you asked Hashem for help in something that you were embarrassed to ask from Him?
This morning.
Me too. I caught myself this morning. Mamash after Shachris, and before Mamash, something I was davening for. After davening and taking off my tefillin, before here, I said, "Wow!" I caught myself again, thinking that like the point is not to involve you, as if you're not, So when it comes to Geula, it just won't. We have to up our deep in our understanding of the process. It's a godly process. זוהי נקודת היסוד לכל ענייני הגאולה, הידיעה שהגאולה היא פעולה אלוקית עליונה ונשגבה. כלומר, שהקדוש ברוך הוא בכוחו וגבורתו הוא המוביל את התהליך הגאולה של עם ישראל. is Hashem that is running the G train, right? The Geula train. וזהו שאנו אומרים בתפילה, כי כל גואל חזק אתה. This is what it means. Now he's going to say, like, now have a shtickle more kavana. When you're saying such words in Shmona Esrei, ki kel goel chazak ata. You're not just a goel. You're a goel chazak. I mean, this is a strong wind. This is a strong, big process. Be'oto hakoach ve'agvura, imam bara Hashem et habriya v'chol ha'yitzurim, with the same strength and might through which God created the whole world and all of creations, all the creatures, ובאותו הכוח שהוא מגלגל את כל גלגולי האנושות וההוויה מאז בריאת העולם ועד עתה, and with the same strength that humanity has been evolving all these years, בכוח זה בעצמו הוא מניע את גאולת עם ישראל. With the same might and strength. I love how he says here the word menia. You know what menia means? It comes from the word, no, monea is to prevent. Menia, huh? It's like an engine, a manoa, right? To propel, yes. He's saying, what do you think, what kind of koach do you think it took to create the world? Like, we don't even understand what that means, right? What does that even mean? Oh, let me tell you, I think it took this and that. We don't understand this concept, because it's, why? Because it's Ram Benisa, Gadol Venora. It's godly. He's saying, that's the same exact koach that is leading and driving the force of Geula in the world. It's the same koach, same exact thing.
I would think it would need to be more.
What's that?
I would think it would need to be more, because we're such an amkshe'ara. Like, you're giving so much resistance.
You're giving us, I think you're giving us too much, yeah, I think that's the point of this parak. Meaning, no one can get in the way of Hashem's tochniot. There's no such thing. Only you can get in the way of yourself. Right? But you can't get in the way. No one, no Germans, no one can get in the way of God's tochnit, Elokit. Doesn't mean I can't become a shutaf. I can become a partner with it. But you're not big enough, you, Zahava, me, anyone, we're not big enough to say, because we're so kshe orif, God needs to up his game. You can't say such a thing, you know what I mean? Nachon. In Chassidus, they say kshe orif is actually a gewalt. Because kshe orif means, wow, you will not take no for an answer. That's the, that's the kshe, that's the tikkun of, that's the hamtaka of kshe orif. You're so, it's like, Hashem is saying, there's going to be 6 million Jews, and your kshe orif is still under the assumption that there's still a love fest going on. That's craziness.
Often, our weakness can also be our strength.
Of course. That's our avoda in this world, to transform these things. זהו כוח אחד אין סופי שהתנוצץ בראשית בריאת העולם והוא חי וקיים לעד ומניע את העולם אל שלמותו. Again, this is the same driving force that created this world and is driving the whole world towards its shlemut. לנקודה זו יש השלכות גדולות מאוד. There are tremendous, how do you say השלכה, ramifications? Implications. There's a lot we learn from this simple statement. בנוהג שבעולם, אדם בעל שכל ישר, שואף שאיפות וחולם חלומות בהתאם לכוחותיו ויכולתיו. It seems that a logical person, שכל ישר, he dreams in accordance to his capabilities, right? הוא לא יחלום לקנות את כל העולם. He's not going to dream, I'm going to buy the whole world. There was one Meshugana, he tried that, Achashverosh, right? But generally speaking, we don't, that was Baal Sechel Yashar, that's the problem, isn't it? Sechel Yashar, but anyone with Sechel Yashar, he's not going to say, I'm going to buy all of the world right now, right? שכן הוא יודע בוודאות שדבר זה מחוץ ליכולתיו, because he knows that it's not, I can't do that. I can't buy the whole world. It's beyond my capability. הצבת היעדים והמטרות תהיה תמיד בהתאם לאומדן הכוחות והיכולות. Setting targets, setting goals to achieve for the logical person will always be בהתאם to what they, like, in accordance to what seems feasible. נכון? To what seems feasible. גם בדברים שהלב חושק בהם מאוד, האדם ישים גבול לתשוקותיו ומאווייו, בהתאם ליכולת השגתם לפי מידת כוחותיו. We're not just talking about business ventures here, we're also speaking about things that the heart really, really desires. Even that, once I realize my heart is basically setting myself up for too many failures, so even with my heart, I'm going to say, listen, at a certain point, you can't live like this anymore. Okay, you have to be able to live in a sense of making sense with how you set your goals. וכן בשעה שהאדם נתקל בקשיים ובמתנגדים העומדים בינו ובין חלומותיו. When a person comes across difficulties and with opposers that stand in the way between a person and their dreams, הוא עלול להיכנס לחולשה ולחוש עומס וכבדות. All it takes is one teacher that comes and tells you, you really have, and they diagnose you and they say whatever they say. And, we have this all the time. All you have one friend to tell you that one comment about anything, and that just stands in the way of everything, and it makes you feel so heavy. בפרט אם האדם חש שהכוחות העומדים למולו גדולים ממנו, especially when I sense that what I'm standing in front of is just bigger than me, וניצבים כחומה בצורה, and it's like a wall that I can't take down. לכן גם מצב רוחו של האדם, תקוותיו וייאושו, נגזרים בהתאם לעומדם היכולת העצמית שלו אל מול אתגריו, מעכביו וקשי הגשמת חלומותיו. What is he saying over here? This is very important to understand, obviously, what he's about to tell us, right? He's saying, anyone that cares for your self-being would advise you, after hearing about your dreams, to get with the program. נכון? Do you understand what he's saying over here? Anyone that cares... What's that?
They call them dream stealers.
Dream stealers.
Yeah, because they're standing in your way. The question is if you're going to give in to them or not. You'll come across them.
Well, it's interesting because sometimes sometimes it's not exactly a dream stealer. It could be a person that really is not trying to do harm.
Oh, they don't know that they're doing harm. They're not always there to do it purposely, but it's
But in certain areas...
you react to what they might say.
But in certain areas in life, it actually works in a way, he's saying over here, that'll help you achieve more if you set goals that make sense to where you're at right now. He's trying to just bring it realistic. What's a good example? I mean, the example he gave is a bit pretty far out. He's saying, no one wants to buy the whole world. But what's another example that we could relate to, where you probably hear this from a friend of yours or a child of yours, and you'd say, you know what, start with this. Right? Start with this. Why? Because the feeling of failure, that feeling of seeing your life, be destroyed, that's just too painful in light of what you're trying to do, and and then when you fall, you're not gonna have craft to get up again. So I think we're speaking about something very logical, very down to earth here, very much just l'shem tmuna gdola, for the sake of a bigger picture. We can give a lot of examples, but you understand the context of what he's saying? Not so much? I'm going to repeat the last paragraph again, okay? וכן בשעה שהאדם נתקל בקשיים ומתנגדים העומדים בינו ובין חלומותיו, הוא עלול להיכנס לחולשה ולחוש עומס וכבדות. When something stands between me and my dreams, I could feel very heavy. I could feel very overwhelmed. בפרט אם האדם חש שהכוחות העומדים למולו גדולים ממנו וניצבים כחומה בצורה. Specifically when I feel that the koach that's standing in front of me, against me, is much greater than me. Therefore, גם מצב רוחו של האדם, a person's temperament, תקוותו וייאושו, his hopes and his despair, נגזרים בהתאם לעומדן היכולת העצמי שלו. Listen, am I going to be very, very depressed right now if next year on Sunday mornings there aren't 800 women in here every morning? Do you understand? Meaning, at a certain point, you have to realize, meaning, if that's the dream that the shul should have 800 people every shiva, first of all, I think it'd be awful. Even 80. I think this number is like this, a matana from Shamayim, but I'm saying, setting myself up for disappointment, there's no holiness in that. There's no holiness for that. So I need people that ground me and say to me, listen, this is what it is, and I'm learning this in a lot of different areas in life in terms of looking at project-based stuff. Okay? Project-based stuff. That's one element of this whole story. But now he's going to go to the other element. Geula is not a project. Geula is not a project. Now he's going to explain. Omnam. Look at the bottom paragraph. כשאנו ניגשים אל עניין גאולת עם ישראל, צריך לדעת שנקודת המוצא היא שונה בתכלית מכל חלום או כמיהה אנושית רגילה. You have to understand something. The starting place of Geula is different in its essence and in its purpose from any other dream or human aspiration there is. You're talking about something else. Geulat Am Yisrael eina inyan enoshi. The redemption of Am Yisrael is not a human concept. It's not like a concept, like a goal, a project that I'm trying to do and achieve. It doesn't work like that. Where I have a structure of the project and I set all these ya'adim, all these different blocks, all these different nikudot sion. That's not what Geula is. It's not a human project. It's not a human structure. It's not a human evolution. It's a godly story. אלא רצון אלוקי נכבד ועליון מאוד שכל בריאת שמיים בארץ נועדה עבורו. That the creation of the heavens of the earth were meant for the Geula to take place. הכוח הדוחף את גלגלי ההוויה כדי להצמיח את ישועתם של ישראל אינו כוח אנושי מוגבל. This power, this strength, this feeling, which is pushing the wheels of existence for them to give birth, for the redemption of Am Yisrael, is not a finite human strength. Any strength coming from humanity is finite. I could be stronger than another person, but my kochot are limited physically. Ela otzmot gvurat malko shel olam. We're talking about godly strength, infinite strength, ein sof strength. Elu galei chayim adirim. These are the waves of life that Geula has with it. It's not anything that we know of. הדוחקים במציאות בצורות רבות במטרה לסבב את הגאולה השלמה. There's a bigger picture of Geula that he's basically saying you need to tap into. It also puts like religious Zionism on the podium right now and saying, or not on the podium, I guess in the hot spot. Yes. And it's saying, what is it saying basically? What's that? It's just beyond. It's beyond. I know you feel this is the most important thing in the world right now, but it's bigger. You know, whatever that is. Huh? I know you feel, I don't know, you fill in the blank. I mean, I'm gonna sound like such a devil's advocate right now, okay? I can't believe I'm about to say this, but it's true, okay? I actually cannot believe I'm about to say the next thing. Settlements. I actually...
Don't do that.
No, but do you understand why I'm shocked that I'm actually saying it, but I actually really believe that, meaning...
Instead, because a lot of this is stuff throwing into question, more like...
Nachon.
What are we, what's it saying to us we should hear, so that, be upset?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But when he say Enata ben chorin libatel imena, says, listen, what you feel is important and even crucial that needs to be done, you better do it. But you do it with humility, that Geula is much bigger than any single act that you think is going to be the defining thing. I went to the extreme because I took something that you obviously know what I feel about it. I feel that we have to build in every single hole everywhere. Meaning, but that's my finite mind that hopefully is in tune with kedusha. Feels like that, right? Geula, Geula is a godly process that's bigger than anything that my finite mind leads me to say, this is the most important thing in the world right now. So what's a midah that like you cannot move forward with learning Geula unless you have? Anava. Anava. I have to humble the daylights out of myself while I'm a Geula activist, right? While I'm a redemption activist, and I'm again, redemption activists, don't misread this. Oh, it's a godly process. So a redemption activist sits back because it's a godly process. Huh? The chidush is the consciousness, the awareness of what I'm doing. But the truth is, it's a buildup of everything we've learned until now. Is that it's a buildup of every shir of what he's talking about, the bigger picture of Am Yisrael, the door we're in right now. God is leading the show, not you or me. We're not leading the show. We are very active in the script right now. We are not the director. Hashem is the only director that ever was and ever will be. So when I think like this right now in my mind about Geula, there is a big, big chiddush that I only really understand once I'm willing to rid myself of all the things that I always thought have to be in order for Geula to come. Everything, anything. Doesn't mean I change my decision makings in life at all. I may even believe even more in the decisions I've made in my life. But the way that I approach the concept of Geula is just a different angle. I think of it differently. I dream of it differently. For many people, Geula, the dream of Geula is very finite. It's a very finite way of dreaming. The Geula, the Am Yisrael, Geulat Am Yisrael, which means the whole world, it just means so much more than any one thing that I say, this is what needs to happen. Now, it doesn't mean that I'll stop doing that one thing I think needs to happen. Again, I may even do it with more force. You understand? The nafkamina is not, do I change my actions? It's just on what level am I humbling myself before a much bigger process. And trust me, a lot of actions will change when that's the way that I approach Geula. A lot of actions will change. I brought the religious Zionist movement or the political party to the picture here because their kivyachos represent a group of people with the idealism of, believing in the Medina in the context of Geula. That's why I'm not bringing here, I'm not saying, listen, Ram, I want you to, or Khalila, or even Likud, or, they just talk about nationalism, but if you're going to speak about the Eretz Yisrael, for Am Yisrael, the context of Geula, wait a second. Is it clear to you this is a Ma'alach Eloki Adir? This is a godly movement. This is much bigger than you. Now, it doesn't mean then, oh my God, I realize it's so bigger than me. Let me shy away. Lahefech. I'll be much more part of the picture of the driving force of Geula with utmost humility in a much more powerful and effective way, which we'll see while we continue to learn the context of redemption. Asher al ken, let's finish this up. Asher al ken. אסור להכיל את הכלל המגביל את החלומות באמתן לאומדן היכולות כשאנו באים לעסוק בענייני הגאולה, שלביה וייעודיה. So he says, amazing. As opposed to the way we spoke about project management regarding things that are based on man's kochot, Geula, the dreaming of Geula, cannot be set, should not be set in the context of what does it make sense to dream about and what doesn't it make sense to dream about. Do you understand this statement? This is very important. When I think of Geula, Rav Sasson is saying, I don't think about it the way that I think about other big aspirations that I have. The aspiration of Geula, of redemption, is one that has no finitude. It's all infinite. So the way that I dream about it, bless you, has to be completely infinite as well, and not human, to a certain extent. אנו צריכים לצאת מהחשיבה הרגילה ולהיפתח למחשבת השם העליונה, לעצתו הכבירה ולגבורתו האינסופית. Bless you. What I have to do, I have to get out of the way that I normally think about things when it comes to the way that I think about Geula, and I have to understand and learn more about how Hashem thought about Geula and how Hashem dreamed redemption. מתוך גדולת ומחשבת השם, עלינו לגשת ולהביט על ייעודי הגאולה, שלמותה ואורה. You want to talk about redemption, Geula? Do you even know what you're talking about? Do you know what world is waiting for us in a redemptive state of being? Well, let's learn in Pnimius HaTorah to understand what it is you're davening for all the time. And then the way that you think of it will completely change. But if your concept of Geula is only that every single Jew signs up for Nefesh B'Nefesh and we all move here, and that's Geula. Exactly. גרגיר אחד לא ייפול ארצה מכל אשר דיבר השם אל עמו על ידי עבדיו הנביאים. Every letter of prophecy that was ever said to the prophet, that was ever brought down to Am Yisrael through the prophets, will להתקיים, will happen. וגם אם יקום מתנגדים רבים ויאספו כל יצורי תבל כדי לנסות לעצור את התוכנית האלוקית, לא יוכלו לה. And if every evil person or every opposer to the godly process of redemption will come and try to stop the Geula, Hashem will go, it's nothing. It won't even go poof. It doesn't mean anything. This ship has sailed a long time ago. A long time ago. It sailed when the concept of time began to exist. You understand? ולא רק בגלל שהשם יתברך אדיר בכוחו מכל הנבראים כולם. It's not that God is stronger than those that want to oppose redemption. אלא כי באמת הוא מעמיד ומקיים גם אותם בהתנגדותם. This is so deep. Because really, they're puppets, they're pawns, they're also part of the process that leads a believing Jew, a believing human being towards a redemptive world. והרי זה כמו שהיד לא תוכל להכריז מלחמה נגד המוח, והיא לגביו כחומר ביד היוצר. Can you imagine a situation that a hand declares war against its brain? Why is that impossible? He's saying that's why when you look at people, when you look at energies or kochot, that's as if like opposing and this and that. Understand something. It's all shtuyot through Geula lens. That's why he's kind of answering the opening statement of the shir. He's saying, don't get too startled from what you see that seems to be opposing all the light that Rav Kook is speaking about what's going on right now in the world. Because really, it's also part of the Geula process. We're going to teach you how to see it like that. But you got to get so much deeper. You gotta enter into this world that experiences Torah, learning Torah, davening, understanding tefillah, so much deeper. ויהי רצון שנזכה להופעת אור השם עלינו בשלמות. It should be God's will that the appearance of God's light should come down on us bishlemut, fully. Right now it's really not fully. There's nice, God's light is always there. Its appearance is, fragments here and there, and v'chulei. Nachon, God could bring it all down right now at once. But that's not happening right now. B'chol rivdei ha'geula ve'orotei, and all the layers of redemption and its light. Ve'binyan beit mikdashenu b'mehera, amen ve'amen. So we have our work set up for us. Mamash. What I'm going to try to do over the summer before we resume this shiurim is I'm going to try to give a 5-minute synopsis of every shiur we did until now. Bezrat Hashem, because I don't know, there's like maybe 16 or 17 classes of this. In order to come back, mamash kmo shetzarich, and then when we resume the learning, we'll mamash from right here, from this perfect place called Va'olech etchem Kumiyut. If there's a chance in the world I could score more copies of a sefer that stopped being published a while ago, I'll do my best. We've had already some luck, but we should be zochet to learn this forever.
Can you, those of us who may want to keep learning this, is there anything you can recommend that we do, like in Chevrutot over the summer, and if we have questions? Just Chazara on what we do?
I myself would do Chazara on this like 20 times, 100%. There's also plenty of paragraphs within here, and of course we didn't do for the sake of a sheer context, but 100%.
Thank you.
Right.
Rav Sasson is speaking next week in the Tennis of the College of Prague in Tel Aviv, along with
Wow.
Yeah, listen.
But just one more thing, if anyone can, then it's okay, I announce it. This Friday morning is the Askara for David, for Esti's son on Har Herzl at 10 o'clock. And because of the way it comes out this year, it's Friday, and it'll probably be a bit more difficult for Chaver to be there. If anyone's able to make it, please let me know. Because we're trying to see if we could arrange some kind of hasa'ah from here to there. So please let me know. This Friday morning at 10 a.m. Levi Mashiach should come before then. Bezrat Hashem. All right. We'll have one more shir this week on Thursday, and then hasta la vista.